Hello, welcome to Rise of the Human Factor. My name is Kay Sargent, and I'm Director of Workplace Strategy at HOK, a large architectural firm. And my job really is to work with clients all around the world to help them understand how space is evolving and what is the right solution for them. So, why are we talking about the rise of the human factor? Well, in any space, people are the chief currency of business. 80% of a company's money, 5 to 10 times the cost of the facilities, goes to the people cost. Only 10% goes to property and only 10% goes to technology. So it's really important that we focus on the people part and we get that right. But what percentage of the workforce is engaged today and what percentage is disengaged? Well, 70% of the workforce today in the U.S. is disengaged. That according to the Gallup poll. That means that people are showing up for work, but they're not really all in. Maybe they don't know what the purpose of the organization is, or they don't feel empowered, or they don't feel connected to the organization. So if you think about the fact that 80% of a company's money goes towards their people, and 70% of that 80% feel disenfranchised or are not fully engaged, there's a huge opportunity to improve in this category. So if you look at the scores in the US, 30% of people show up at work fully engaged. They know what their purpose is, they have their assignment, they feel empowered, they feel like there's a sense of purpose, they're ready to go. But 52% are not. And 18% are actively disengaged. Studies show that you'd actually be better sending those people home because they're so distracted and distracting to everybody else in the workplace that they're actually bringing everybody else down. Now, the news isn't all bad. Okay? Yes, there's a high percentage of people that are disengaged in the U.S. workforce, but the rest of the world is even worse. The U.S. actually has the most engaged workforce on the entire planet. That's the consolation prize, but it's really not a good one because there's so much more that we can do to really make it a better experience for people. Now, the World Health Organization has dubbed the term technostress, that need to be on and connected 24/7. We're living in a time where you are constantly connected via our technology and can always be reached. For most of us, the last thing we do before we go to sleep is check our emails, and the first thing we do in the morning when we wake up is do it. But there's a toll that's taking on all of us. Stress. Stress is the biggest health epidemic that we will be facing in the 21st century and could cost U.S. businesses up to $300 billion a year, again, according to the World Health Organization. And we're ignoring the signs and what's out there. Everyone talks about we need to get to a point of engagement and people need to feel fulfilled. But if you think back to Psychology 101 and Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you really think about the fact that you can't ever achieve the top of the pyramid if you're not taking care of the basics at the bottom. So lighting, temperature, noise, air movement, food. We all need to get those basic needs met first before then we can start thinking about ergonomics and privacy, or connecting with our team, or then building trust and respect and having transparency, and then really getting to a point where there's purpose and value and engagement. So we need to look at all of the different factors to ensure that we're creating environments where people feel empowered and safe and can really achieve at a higher level. When we talk about workplace today, and everyone always asks us, what is the workplace of the future? Well, we always say that it's not so much about the workplace of the future anymore. We need to focus more on the worker of the future. We need to focus less on space-centric measurements, square foot per person, cost per person, etc. And we need to think about the human-centric measurements. Are we attracting and retaining the best talent? Are we keeping the best talent? What is the ability for people to get access to decision makers, or the speed to innovation, or can they connect with their teammates, or do they feel like they're connected to the purpose of the organization? All of these things we can measure in the workplace, but most companies aren't focusing on those. But those are truly the things that are differentiators today. We're really shifting from being less siloed and really more connected. After all, we're living in a time where you don't have to go to work or the office to work. You can work anytime, anywhere. And so the reason that you're really coming to the office is to connect with other people. But if we're building out buildings and workspaces so that everybody is relegated to silos, we're not enabling that connection that's so important today. We're also starting to see a major shift from just focusing on the environmental sustainability aspects to one that really embraces this notion of human sustainability. After all, sitting stagnantly is killing us faster than what any wall is off-gassing. So we need to think about not only designing in buildings that are good for the environment, but for the people that are occupying them. So there's a whole rise of awareness right now about not just wellness, which is your physical health, but your well-being, your social connections, your financial health, your emotional health, your physical health, all of those things together that really make us happy, healthy, engaged, and empowered employees. We're seeing a shift from things that are all about being owned and controlled. I have to have my office or my space or my desk, to really leveraging access and to having shared and flexible spaces. After all, study after study shows that when we walk through offices, what we're finding is only about 30 or 40% are even being utilized at any given time. And so there's a tremendous amount of waste. And people are relegated to sit in one spot all day, and they don't have options and choices, which is what really gives them the ability to choose the right setting and to be happier and more engaged. So it's less about owning and controlling and more about sharing and being flexible. We also see that we're on the rise of another shift that really focuses less on incremental productivity and more on divergent creativity. So for a long time, there's been this raging debate about how do we measure productivity. Okay? And I'm going to say that I think it's a total red herring. Because at the end of the day, what you're going to find, based on the Gallup polls and all the others, is that we don't really have a very engaged workforce. And so the productivity isn't where it could and should be. So measuring how bad it is isn't solving the problem. But we're also living in a time where robotics, artificial intelligence, machine learning are all coming in and impacting the way that we work. And so a lot of the things that were productivity based, producing something or a widget, etc., is really going to be done by automation and by the machines. And that frees us up to think about what else we can do. We shouldn't be afraid of the jobs that are going to be taken away by robots. We should be empowered by the fact that they're going to come in and take care of some of the mundane things, or quite frankly, some of the dangerous jobs, and enable us then to really think about, okay, what do I do with this information? And how do I create? Because in the future, companies are going to be judged more by their speed to innovation, their ability to create, rather than just what they're producing. If you think about companies like Uber or Airbnb, what do they produce? It really wasn't a matter of they produced something. They created something totally different and totally shifted our mindset. And so in the future, it's less about incremental productivity and more about divergent creativity. Getting a diverse group together that have different points of view that can challenge each other in a stimulating way to really break through and have new innovation and creativity. Now, in these new environments, the role of the facility manager is going to change dramatically, because it's not going to be about simply how do I manage this facility. The Internet of Things is going to come online, and that will actually take care of a lot of those types of issues. So, what is the role of the facility manager in the future if the building is more automated and they're managing less and it's taking care of itself? Well, you have to think about, why do we even build buildings in the first place? We're building buildings to create communities. And so it's about, how do we uh, create destinations that people really want to be in and create amazing user experiences. So the facility manager is really going to morph into caring less about managing the facility and more about managing the community by providing them the services. You have a community concierge that really makes it a compelling enough space that you actually want to be there. And it's less about accommodating occupants and more about creating great experiences. You know, 20 years ago, the question when we went to design space was, how many people do I need to fit? How many work points or seats do I need to have? 10 years ago, that question changed to be really more about, what are people doing? What is the task at hand? And how do I design areas that support those tasks, regardless of the number of people? Because that's going to change and ebb and flow, and they don't necessarily need to all own their own spot. But today, the question really is, what is the experience that we want people to have? And are we creating a compelling enough experience that people will willingly go there? Because after all, people have options today. People are paying out of their own pocket to go work in co-working spaces because they feel there's a buzz or a community or a sense of service that they're getting there that they're not getting in corporate spaces anymore. And so we need to learn from that and understand, are we creating a great experience for the people that are there? And it's less about kind of the sage on the stage, and it's more about co-creation. It's about getting those people together, that divergent thinking, and having people come together to really ideate. It's that agile with a capital A methodology of put people in the scrum space together, give them a challenge, bring different perspectives, and they'll solve that together over time. So it's creating spaces that support that breakthrough innovation. It's basically less about workplace today and much more about work how. How do you want to work? Where do you want to work? When do you want to work? And what should that work experience be? After all, we are no longer just designing environments. We're really designing the entire experience. So let's talk a little bit about user experience and how important that really is today, because it really does encompass not only our customers who might be coming, but we need to treat all the employees in the building as our customers. And what is that experience that we want them to have? If you think about it, the auto industry is so far ahead on this. Okay, there are cars now that when you walk up to the car, I don't even have to take the key out of my pocket. Right, the little fob in my pocket connects with the car, it unlocks, and it knows that it's me, not my spouse or one of my children. And everything in the car is automatically adjusted to my preset preferences. My radio station comes on, the temperature that I like comes on, the seat is positioned in the right location, the mirrors all adjust. Everything in that car adjusts to me. But in the workplace, many of us are still crawling around under our desks trying to find power. Nothing meets our needs. And so we're really on this verge of this new evolution where we can create the autonomous workplace, a workplace that is designed to really focus more on us. And it doesn't have to be as high tech as the one on the screen, but it can just be as simple as me walking in, and maybe through facial recognition or a fob in the pocket, it knows who I am. And so I can speed through security. When I get to the elevators, it knows where I typically sit or where my meeting is because it's synced with my calendar. And when I get to that floor, my coffee that I like, that I get every single day, is already there waiting for me because the elevator alerted that I'm coming up to that floor, and it's prepared for me to be there. We have the ability to create these types of environments today, and we just need to focus on how do we leverage that. And we believe that in the next 10 years, the workplace experience will change significantly because we will tie in and adapt and create and leverage all of these abilities that we have now to really create much more compelling experiences for people in the workplace. The only thing that is constant today is change. And it's not the strongest that will survive, but those that are most adaptable. So we don't need to focus on whether a robot's going to replace us. The answer is yes. Robots are going to come on board, or automation, or artificial intelligence, or machine learning, and they're going to replace a lot of those mundane jobs. The question is, what does it free us up to do? And if history has taught us anything, it's that technology advances don't replace the workforce, they enhance it. They enhance our ability to do things. When the ATM came on board, everybody thought it was going to be the end of the tellers. But we still have tellers. What we have now, though, is a choice. If I want to be quick in and quick out, I don't want to wait in a line, I can go to the ATM and I'm out. But if I want to have that engagement, I can walk in. Except now, because I've freed up the tellers, because all the people that want quicker exchanges are using the ATMs, those tellers are coming out from behind their desks. And they're universal bankers that are greeting you upon entry to see what they can do to help you. It's not just simply about a transaction anymore. It's about, can I help you with your insurance? Or is there a mortgage issue? Or what can I do? It's a experience that's much more tailored to what you need it to be. Same thing with chat boxes today, who are taking a lot of the people that are in call centers and replacing them and expediting it through chat boxes, or even robotics in manufacturing. Yes, you can walk onto a manufacturing floor and there's not a lot of people on that floor anymore. But for all the jobs that were eliminated in manufacturing, many more were created in the field of robotics. There's a shift. And so what we're finding really is that as we move into newly created technologies, new positions are created, and actually new jobs are created. The question is, are you prepared to shift to what those new jobs are when those lower hanging fruit jobs or things that can be automated are automated? And what does that free you up to be able to do? So are we shifting to be prepared? There's a new balance. Man is really the art of the job, the judgment, the emotional cues, taking all of those things one step farther. But the machine is the computational learning. They're going to give us that data. And so the question is, are we set up to really focus on what separates us from the machines? Emotional intelligence. So if you look at this chart and it shows the perceived importance of skills today and the skills that we're going to need in the future, things on the social and emotional scale, leadership, communication, negotiation, entrepreneurialism, adaptability, training, recruiting, all of those things are high on the list of things that we need to do, because we as humans do those really, really well, where machines don't. And so we need to think about, how do we need to shift our skill set, and how do we need to reskill and retrain the workforce really to be prepared for the work and the workplace of the future. So with that, I want to thank you all for joining me, because we are so excited about the fact that while we're witnessing the rise of machines, we also are seeing a brand new enhanced focus on the rise of the human factor. And it's all about understanding how to leverage that, what's important, and how to go forward into the future.